Hey everyone, welcome back to another devlog on Roman Legacy speed trials. We've made a ton of progress again and I'm really excited to share it all with you today. This time around we got a bit shorter devlog, but regardless, let's dive straight in. First off, I spent some time creating a mood board for the project, which really helps set tone and aesthetic for the game. Along with that, I've nailed down the color palette, which brings everything together visually. This is something that will really help guide the overall look and feel of the game moving forward. We talked more about that in the video Color Theory involving the visual design part 1, so check it out if you're interested, linked in the description. Now on the exciting gameplay updates. I've added a cable slide feature, which is a lot of fun to use. You'll be able to zip between locations quickly, adding more fluidity to the parkour gameplay. Also, I've implemented the first version of predictive animation system, which makes the characters' movements feel more responsive as they predict in advance when to start ledge grabbing. Along with that, I added a more realistic animation blending for the basic movement. This affects how quickly the character starts moving, changes direction, etc. Best part about that is that it's still deterministic, meaning the game always behaves the same way for the same inputs. This helps with creating things like replays and cheat prevention, ensuring fairness for all players. One of the biggest updates this time around is the overhaul to the ledge grab system, building on the previously mentioned predictive animation system. I've added a lot of new animations and variants, making the ledge grab feel more dynamic and natural. Now the character interacts with the environment in different ways depending on how they approach a ledge, which adds variety and a more realistic feel. You can also now stay in the ledge and move left and right, adding more possible variety in level design. This turned out to be a pretty cool addition in my opinion. I also blocked out the first level, heavily inspired by Mirror's Edge, to capture that sleek urban parkour vibe. Though it's still in its early stages, it's shaping up nicely and serves as a great testing ground for the new movement upgrades, both now and in the future. And finally, I've started working on a turn-in-place system, which will help the character rotate smoothly when standing still, rather than snapping into the mouse-translated rotation. So what this means is that we turn the torso before we turn the legs to match the torso forward. It's all about those little details. Like I've said before, that is very important to me. This one was maddening. Here's the setup. When the player grabs a ledge, the camera should follow smoothly, staying aligned with the character's head. But weirdly, when I maximized the game view in the editor or ran the build, the camera just stopped following halfway through the ledge grab animation. Sometimes it even became only laggy, while other times it just froze in place, refusing to follow the character at all. I dug through everything I could think of. Was the animation playing? Yep. Could it be a timing issue? I tried every configuration I could think of and still nothing. Was the speed unexpectedly zero? No luck there either. Finally, I came across the animator component settings and noticed update mode. Maybe switching from animate physics to normal would fix it? No dice. And besides, it needs to stay as animate physics for the rigging anyways. But then there it was. The culling mode was set to cool update transforms. Well, it makes sense. The camera was relying on the ledge grab animation to drive its movement, but with the cooling setting on, it wouldn't update properly because the head was technically behind the camera, making you assume it didn't need to update. Switching to culling mode to always animate solved everything instantly. It's wild that such a small setting could break things only in maximized mode or in builds. I suspect it has something to do with how the aspect ratio or resolution affects what Unity decides to cool. Just another reminder that sometimes the most frustrating issues have surprisingly simple solutions. Another cool update is the improvement to the landing system. Now, if you are about to hit a bad landing, and by that I mean when you drop down from a high enough place, now you can cancel it into a roll, which keeps the momentum going and feels super satisfying. On the other hand, if you miss the timing, you'll stumble, which costs you time. Previously, this was kind of backwards. It's all about keeping the flow of movement intact, and I think the roll really adds the sense of rhythm in a more skillful way. Oh, and by the way, I recently posted a video on why I became a game developer, where I go into detail about my journey and what inspired me. If you haven't seen it yet, feel free to check it out. It gives you a bit of behind the scenes insight into my process, and I think it's the best video I have made so far. Before we wrap up, I want to share a bit about what's coming next. The core focus remained the same as before, prototyping new levels and polishing the character controller. However, I'll be shifting a bit more attention towards the story, though its actual implementation will likely start after the New Year's celebrations. Another important topic I want to discuss is my intention to experiment with slowing down the gameplay, particularly the movement mechanics. Right now, I feel like it's too fast to deliver satisfying experience I'm aiming for. What do you think about this approach? Stay tuned for the next devlog, where I'll share how this adjustment is shaping up. I might even create a separate video on it before then. Implementing this change will require a significant reworking of the existing levels, but I see this as a positive opportunity. I'm not entirely happy with how the levels currently play. While they're decent, I think we could enhance the experience by focusing more on the rooftops and emphasizing parkour elements in elevated spaces. Also, a quick heads up. On the next devlog, which is launching in December, I'll be sharing more details about my overall development plan for next year, so stay tuned for that. That's all for this devlog. A lot of exciting features and improvements this time around. If you enjoyed this update, be sure to subscribe and follow along as we get closer to bringing this game to life. Thanks for watching and see you next time.